Okay, so today we are going to cover five important topics from current affairs perspective, and these topics have been taken from art and culture. Okay, so first topic that we are going to discuss is Gurjar Pratiharas. Okay, we will see like why Gurjar Pratihara dynasty was in news, what was the perspective, and we will see some details about it. Okay. Second thing is Payanur. We are going to learn about Payanur, why it was in news. Okay, this is a place, why it was in news. What is its connection with Mahatma Gandhi? We are going to see this thing. Then we will see the Pum Puhar. Okay, so this is also a place which was in news. Then we will learn about Kumbha Bhishegam. Okay, Kumbha Bhishegam. It is a ceremony. Okay, Kumbha means Kumbha means head. Okay, so Abhishekam means like bathing. So head bathing type of thing. So it was in news. So we will understand this thing. And then we will learn about Guru Ravidas Jayanti. Especially we will learn about Guru Ravidas. Okay. So let us move forward. So this is the first topic that we are going to cover. It is Gurjara Pratihara. Okay. So let us see why it was in news. Okay. So Natesha. Okay. Natesha, which is a 9th century rare sandstone. Okay. It is a 9th century rare sandstone idol of Rajasthan temple. Okay. It was smuggled out of the country in 1998 and it returned to India. Okay. So that's why Gurjar Pratihara dynasty is connected with this. So we will learn about it. Okay. So what is Natesha? We are going to discuss about it. Okay. So let us learn about what is Natesha. Okay. Natesha sandstone idol. So this Natesha is a rare sandstone idol from the Pratihara style of architecture. Okay. So it is from the Pratihara style of architecture in Rajasthan. And it is originally from the Ghateshwar temple at Baroli in Rajasthan. Okay, it is originally from Ghateshwar temple at Baroli in Rajasthan. The sandstone Natesha figure stands tall at almost 4 feet. Okay, in a rare and brilliant depiction of Shiva. Okay, so it depicts Shiva. So this Natesha temple, it is associated with Lord Shiva. This is one thing, and like it is an idol of the Pratihara style. Okay, style of architecture from the state of Rajasthan. This is another important point. And then it is originally from Ghateshwar temple at Baroli in Rajasthan. Then if we talk about like a depiction of Nandi, okay, Nandi means it is a sacred bull, okay, bull calf is shown behind the right leg of the Natesha icon. So here I have not included image of Natesha, okay. So the thing is you can Google about it to see how that Natesha idol looks like. But like we are going to discuss about Pratihara style of architecture. Okay, so the Pratihara style of architecture is associated with Gurjara Pratihara dynasty, from around 800 to 900 AD. Okay, Gurjara Pratihara dynasty from about 800 and 900 AD. So in this respect, we will see this particular map over here. Okay, so this map shows some of the kingdoms. Okay, so the thing is this area which is highlighted using some yellowish color, I would say dark yellowish color. So it is Gurjara Pratiharas. Okay, so this was the extent of their dynasty. So they had their rule, okay, in the northern portion of India. Okay, they had their rule in the northern portion of India. And okay, just a minute. Okay, so we are going to learn about this particular image over here. So this image here, it shows the extent of the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. You can see it is in the central India and towards the northern portion of India. Okay, so it extends to the West India as well as to the eastward India. Okay, and apart from this, they have in this particular map, they Rashtrakuta dynasty is also being shown. Okay, then apart from this, Chalukyas are shown, then Vengi is shown, okay, Kerala is shown. So like this is Eastern Chalukya, which is Vengi. Okay, Cholas, Pandyas, these things are being shown in this particular map. So this map, you can, you know, look into the details of this map when you have free time about it. Okay. So now we are going to discuss about Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. Okay. So let us learn about this Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. So if we talk about the dynasty itself, okay, the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty ruled much of the northern India from mid 8th to the 11th century. Okay, they ruled from 8th to 11th century. They were one of the first four, you know, patrilineal clans of the caste group referred to as Rajputs. Okay, so they were one of the four patrilineal. Patrilineal means where you know the things is inherited by the male childs of you know of the kingdom and all. Then, so internet was little unstable. My Wi-Fi is not working. I have connected it with my mobile phone, so sometimes I receive calls also. Okay, so Pratiharas derive their name from the Sanskrit meaning. Okay, Pratihara means doorkeeper. Okay, Pratiharas means doorkeeper. Okay, and they are seen as a tribal group. I know the screen is not being not visible at the moment. Okay, it will be back within a minute. Okay, so if you talk about important rulers under this Pratihara dynasty, okay, here we have Nagabhatta I. Okay, so Nagabhatta I contained Arab armies moving east of the Indus and rose to the fame in the late 8th century. So Nagabhatta I was one of the you know like one of the rulers of the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. Then if we talk about Nagabhatta, okay, just a minute. Okay, so my screen will be back soon. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible to all of you now. Okay, that's all right. So let us move forward on the topic. So we were discussing about the dynasty, okay, the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. So in this dynasty, we do have two important rulers. One of the ruler is Nagabhatta I. Second ruler is Nagabhatta II. Okay, so Mihir Bhoj and Mahendrapala I. Okay, so these are the rulers of the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. Nagabhatta II, Mihir Bhoj or Bhoj. Okay, then Mahendra Pal I were the other important rulers of this dynasty. Okay, the expansion of the Gurjara Pratihara kingdom involved, you know, constant conflicts with other contemporary powers such as Palas, Rashtrakutas, and it is known as tripartite struggle. Okay, so the thing is, you know, like this Gurjara Pratihara dynasty was at constant struggle with Palas and Rashtrakutas. Okay, okay, so it is being shown in this particular image itself. Okay, so we see over here Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. Okay, then Pala dynasty was there, Rashtrakuta dynasty, it is being shown here, so I had already marked. Okay, then we do have Pala dynasty. So Pala dynasty is towards the eastern portion over here. Okay, so it is not being shown in like it is not written over here. So Pala has you know in this particular area. So they were at, you know, constant struggle with one another, conflict with one another. This particular conflict in history is known as tripartite struggle. Okay, so this is the thing. Now if we talk about the struggle of like administration and military, they retain terms of administration on line of the Gupta's empire and Harshvardhana's ideas. So there, you know, like way of management of the dynasty was similar to the Gupta Empire and the Harshvardhana Empire. Then some areas were administered, okay, some of these areas were administered directly by the center and some were divided into provinces, okay. So provinces were known as bhuktis, okay, and districts were known as mandalas or vishaya, okay, respectively. So it is, these are important terms, okay, so you should be remembering. So bhukti means these are provinces, okay, bhukti means these are provinces. And under provinces, there used to be districts. Okay, districts are known as mandalas or vishayas. Okay, mandalas or vishayas. respectively, and governed by a governor, and governor was known as Uparika. Okay, governor was known as Uparika. These terms are very important for prelims exam. They may directly ask, you know, the Uparika means which of the following, like that. Okay, so Uparika means governor, and so they were the governors, okay, during the time of Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. Okay, provinces were known as Bhuktis, districts were known as Mandalas or Vishayas, and governors were known as Uparikas. Okay, and there used to be a district head. He was known as Vishayapati. Okay, so district head was known as Vishayapati. District head means simply like if we talk about, you know, IAS officer of present day. So they were known as Vishayapati. Okay, so these are the important terms that we need to learn. And apart from this, let us talk about, you know, the governors and district heads were tasked with collecting land revenue, okay, and maintaining law and order with the help of the army units stationed in their areas. They were well known for their cavalry, in which horses were imported from Central Asia and Arabia, etc. After Bhoja, like military power of the Pratiharas declined, and they suffered defeat under successive kings. Okay, so military power of the Pratiharas declined, and they suffered like successive defeats. Okay, now let us talk about the architecture of this particular period. Okay, so whatever terms I have underlined over here, they are very important terms. Okay, they are very important terms. If we talk about architecture of this period, okay, the Pratiharas extended Gupta architecture tradition. Okay, so they extended the Gupta architecture tradition by adding a full-fledged mandapa to the single Shrine temple. Okay, and Mandovara, two got articulated into either of the Triratha or the Pancharatha plan. Okay, so the thing is, it is a very important point over here that, you know, they have added full-fledged mandapa to the single Shrine temple. Okay, and they had extended the idea of, you know, idea of the architecture of the Gupta period. Okay, so in this respect, it also becomes important to learn about, you know, the Gupta architecture also. Then some examples are given, like this Gadarmal temple. Okay, we do have Gadarmal temple and Bado Pahari, etc. Okay, Gurjara Pratiharas were known for their open pavilion temple. They have open pavilion temples. They are known for their new space concepts, structural and functional construction, motifs, etc., together with artistic and iconographic norms, like temples belonging to the Nagara style of temple architecture. It is definitely from the Nagara style because, like, it is in the northern part of India. Okay, so it is also important. Okay, so these things are important. If we talk about trade and economy of the Gurjara and Pratihara, the economy in the Gurjara Pratihara Empire was mainly dependent on agricultural production, and major source of government revenue at that time was tax derived from the bulk of agricultural production. Okay, horses were important commodity in trade of Gurjara Pratihara Empire. Primary, you know, literary sources include accounts of Arab merchants. Okay, so if you talk about primary literary sources, how do we get to know about Gurjara Pratihara Empire? So these sources are accounts of Arab merchants like Suleiman al-Masudi and poet Raja Shekhara in the court of Mahindra Palawan. Okay, so these are the things. So this is all about Gurjara Pratihara dynasty and their relevance. So now let us move to the next topic for the day, which is Payyanur. Okay, this topic is very important. So we will understand about Payyanur, why it was in news. Okay, so Kerala plans to set up Mahatma Gandhi Smriti Museum. Okay, Kerala is planning to set up Mahatma Gandhi Smriti Museum at Payyanur. Okay, so we will see where Payyanur is located. It is situated on the banks of Perumba River in Kerala's Kannur district. Okay, it is situated on the banks of Perumba River in Kerala's Kannur district. Okay, so the thing is, you should just locate where is Perumba River located in Kerala. And so if we talk about historical significance of the place, Payyanur, okay, so Simon Commission protest in 1928. Okay, so it is associated with the Simon Commission protest in 1928. Apart from this, the salt satyagraha in 1930, it is associated with that thing. Anti-untouchability movement is associated with this. And then Gandhi is also associated with this place. Okay, so these are the important things. So like we will discuss about it. Just allow me a moment. I'll be highlighting it for you. Okay. So Simon Commission protest, Salt Satyagraha in 1930. Okay. Anti-untouchability movement. Then we had Gandhi. Gandhi's connection is also there with this particular place. Okay. So let us see about it. Historical significance of this particular place. So Simon Commission protest in 1928. Okay. So Mayorat Sankaran. Okay. These are the names of people. Okay. Mayorat Sankaran, A. Lakshmana Shenoy, and Subramaniam Thirumunpu, okay, were the leaders of Simon Go Back protest at Payyanur. Okay, so they were the leaders of Simon Go Back protest at Payyanur. And if we talk about the Salt Satyagraha in 1930, under the leadership of Kerala Gandhi, okay, Kerala Gandhi, who is Kerala Gandhi? K. Kelappan is known as Kerala Gandhi. Okay, so I'm highlighting it, this thing also for you. K. Kelappan is known as Kerala Gandhi. Under the leadership of Kerala Gandhi K. Kelappan, the Satyagraha saw a procession of 33 Satyagrahis from Kozhikode to Payyanur, which earned Payyanur the distinction of second Bardoli. Okay, so it has earned Payyanur the distinction of second Bardoli. So Payyanur is also known as second Bardoli. Okay, so we know about Bardoli Satyagraha. So similarly, like there was a procession of 33 Satyagrahis from Kozhikode to Payyanur. Okay, so that's why it is also known as the second Bardoli. Now, if we talk about anti-untouchability movement, Payyanur was also an epicenter of anti-untouchability movement. Great leaders of the movement were at Payyanur are A.K. Gopalan, okay, K.A. Keralian, and Vishnu Bharatian. Okay, so they were the great leaders of this particular movement, anti-untouchability movement. They ushered boys from the oppressed Pulaya community into the Kurumba like Bhagavathi temple. Okay, and apart from this, one of the first crusaders against casteism in Payyanur was Swami Ananda Tirtha, a Konkani Brahmin by birth who was consecrated at Swami Ananda Tirtha by Narayan Guru and fought a lifelong fights of Dalits. Okay. If we talk about Gandhi's connection, Gandhi visited Kerala in 1934 on a call of Swami Ananda Tirtha. He planted a mango tree in his ashram, which still survives till that date. Okay, in that site. So that's why Payyanur is a very important location. We should see, where Payyanur is located. Perumbar River you should be locating, and then you should, with this respect, you should learn about the Simon Commission. You should learn about the Salt Satyagraha of 1930, and you should also learn about some anti-untouchability movement in Kerala. Okay. So now let us move to the next topic for the day. This topic is little interesting. We need to just learn about it. So Pampur to be digitally reconstructed. So here, if you see this particular map on the right side of this map over here, so this is the location of Pampur. Okay. So where it is located in the state of Tamil Nadu. Actually, like it is not in the state of Tamil Nadu. It is Pampur is a city, but the place we are talking about, it is a submerged place. Means it's submerged around 1000 years ago, and it is going to be digitally reconstructed under Indian Digital Heritage Project. So we are going to learn about this particular place. Okay. So Pampur to be digitally reconstructed. So we will see why it is in news. Pampur, a port city in Tamil Nadu. It is a port city in Tamil Nadu, submerged under sea 1000 years ago, is being digitally reconstructed under Indian Digital Heritage Project. Okay, Indian Digital Heritage Project. It is in short known as IDH project. Okay, Indian Digital Heritage Project. So now let us learn about Pompuhar. Okay, Pompuhar. Okay, Pompuhar. So Pompuhar, in short, it is known as Puhar, which is served as the capital of Chola dynasty. Okay, so the thing is, this particular place was the capital of Chola dynasty. Is located at the mouth of Kaveri River. Okay, it is located at the mouth of Kaveri River. It is mentioned in the Sangam literature, and satellite studies showed that the city was established in the Kaveri Delta about 30 kilometers away from the existing Pompuhar town around 15,000 years ago. It was submerged due to this term is very important, Kadal Kol. Okay, Kadal Kol, it simply means rising sea levels. Okay, around 1,000 years ago. So these topics that I have highlighted over here. Okay, so Pompuhar served as a capital of Chola dynasty. This is one important thing, and it is mentioned in Sangam literature also. Pompuhar, it is another important thing. Then if we talk about this thing, Kadal Kol, okay, it simply means rising sea level. Okay, Kadal Kol means, this word means rising sea level. And apart from this, we need to learn about Indian Digital Heritage Project. Okay, we should learn about Indian Digital Heritage Project, because this particular place is going to be digitally reconstructed. Okay, and it is a port city in the state of Tamil Nadu, Pompuhar. Okay, so it is a port city in the state of Tamil Nadu. So I hope like you understood the significance of this particular topic. Okay, so Pompuhar to be digitally reconstructed. Why? Because the place that we are talking about, it has submerged already. Okay, 1,000 years back, the government of India has taken the initiative of digitally reconstructing this particular place. Okay, government. Okay, Sunita has raised hand. So Sunita, do you have to say something?
Yes, sir. So Chola dynasty belonging to Andhra Pradesh, and Pandya dynasty, Pandya, Chola, Chera Pandya, like that, and Chola belonging to Andhra Pradesh and Pandya belonging to Tamil Nadu, no? And Sangam literature also including Tamil Nadu.
See, I'm just moving above, okay, over here in this map where we have talked about Gurjara Pratihara. So this is the location of Chola dynasty, okay, Chola, Pandya, like that, okay. So at that time, there was no Tamil Nadu and all. So like we are talking about, ancient history, ancient and medieval history, basically ancient history. So Cholas are over here, Pandyas are here, Rashtrakutas are here, Gurjara Pratiharas are here. So these are the things, okay. Chola is here. So I may have taken name of some other dynasty, Palas. Okay, Palas. So I just confused with Palas. So Palas were in the Bengal region. Okay. So Cholas were over here, Pandyas here, and Gurjara Pratiharas were over here. So we have talked about the tripartite struggle also. Okay, between Palas. So see over here, when I was discussing about this particular topic, I mean, tripartite struggle. So I talked about Palas, Rashtrakutas. Okay, I discussed about Palas, Rashtrakutas, and I have talked about Gurjar Pratihara kingdom. Okay, so there used to be conflict between these three kingdoms, and that particular conflict in history is known as tripartite struggle. Gurjara Pratihara kingdom, Palas, and Rashtrakutas. Okay, so Gurjara Pratihara is over here, Rashtrakuta is here, then Palas were over here. Okay, so they were in the eastern portion of India, not in northeastern India, but like Bengal region, Odisha region, like that. So the Palas were there. Okay, so in that respect, I have taken name of this particular thing. So are you understanding? So Cholas, Pandyas, they are in the South India. Okay, so Cholas, Pandyas, Vengi, and all. So here, this is an entirely different topic that we are discussing. So we are discussing Pompuar. Okay, so Pompuar is like, if you talk about the modern day location of Pompuar, so it is located in the state of Tamil Nadu, but the place that is going to be reconstructed, that has already submerged 1,000 years ago. So they are digitally reconstructing under Indian Digital Heritage Project. So in this respect, what are the important things related to Pompuar? It served as a capital of Chola dynasty, and it is mentioned in the Sangam literature. Then one keyword is there. It means Kadal Kol. It simply means rising sea level. It's submerged because of rising sea level. So now let us understand about Indian Digital Heritage Project. Okay, so like under this particular Indian Digital Heritage Project, they are going to reconstruct this particular location. They are going to reconstruct. So we are going to see it. Okay, so it is initiative of the Department of Science and Technology. It is an initiative of the Department of Science and Technology. Okay, for the digital documentation and interpretation of our tangible and intangible heritage. The basic goal of Indian Digital Heritage Project was to bring fine synergy in geospatial technologies with matured information and communication technologies to help preserve, use, and experience India's vast heritage in digital form. Okay, so this is the thing. This is the basic goal of this particular project, which is, you know, Indian Digital Heritage Project. We are talking about Indian Digital Heritage Project, and it also aimed to provide analytic tools for the art historian, the architect, or any scientist in conducting scholarly studies in Indian heritage. The first project under this was Digital Humpy. Okay, so if we talk about this particular project, Indian Digital Heritage Project, the first project under this particular thing was Digital Humpy. Okay, so under this Indian Digital Heritage Project. Okay, Sunita again raised hand. Okay, that's all right. So Sunita, do you have to say something?
Yes, sir. I'm confirmed from Hampi. Hampi in Karnataka. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Hampi.
Right. So Hampi is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So under this particular project, they have taken the initiative of digitally reconstructing Hampi. So name of this project is Indian Digital Heritage Project. Okay. So I hope this topic is clear. Kumpuhar. Now let us move to the next topic. This topic is Kumbha Abhishekam ceremony at Brihadeshwara temple. Okay, so we are now talking about Kumbha Abhishekam ceremony at Brihadeshwara temple. So why it was in news? Because recently Kumbha Abhishekam ceremony was held at Brihadeshwara temple after 23 years. Okay, so it was held, you know, after 23 years. This is a very important point to note. So that's why there is a likelihood that it may be asked in you know, UPSC exam. So we will learn about what do we mean by Kumbha Abhishekam. Okay, we will learn about Kumbha Abhishekam, and then we will also learn about, just a minute. We will also learn about Brihadeshwara temple. Okay, so we will learn about Brihadeshwara temple also. So these are the two things that we will talk today. So Kumbha Abhishekam. Kumbha Abhishekam is part of the consecration ceremony of Hindu temples. Right? This is a ceremony where, you know, people come together. Okay, they celebrate. So Kumbha means the head and denotes the shikhara or crown of the temple. Okay, Kumbha means, it means head. Okay, it denotes the shikhara or crown of the temple. Okay, so this is the thing. And if we talk about Abhishekam, okay, Abhishekam, it means ritual bathing. Okay, so Abhishekam means ritual bathing. So Kumbha Abhishekam, okay, it means like, you know, bathing the crown of the temple or the shikhara of the temple. So it is, you know, this Kumbha Abhishekam ceremony was held at Brihadeshwara temple. So it is important for us to see where Brihadeshwara temple is located, whether it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site or not, like that. Okay. So to the right of this particular screen, we can see a map, and in this map, you know, they are showing the location of Chola temples, the location of Chola temples in the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Okay. So these are the cities over here, and these are the, you know, Chola temples. So one of the temple over here is Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Then second is Airavateshwara. Okay. Third is Thanjavur. Okay. These are the things. And over here, these are the names of the cities like Chennai, Bengaluru, Coimbatore, Madurai, like that. Okay. So here we can see Gangakondai Cholapuram, Airavateshwara temple, and Thanjavur. Okay. So these are the places. Now let us learn. So we have seen what do we mean by Kumbha Abhishekam, right? So let us see something more, some more information about Brihadeshwara temple. So Brihadeshwara temple, which is dedicated to Lord Shiva, is located in Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu. Okay, at the south bank of Kaveri River. Okay, so it is located at Thanjavur in Tamil Nadu at the south bank of Kaveri River. It is also known as Periya Kovil. Okay, Periya Kovil, Raja Rajeshwara temple and Raja Rajeshwaram. Okay, this particular thing, Brihadeshwara temple is known by different names. Okay, what are different names of this Brihadeshwara temple? These names are Periya Kovil, Raja Rajeshwara temple, and Raja Rajeshwaram. Okay, these are the different names. The temple was built between 1003 AD and 1010 AD by the great Chola Emperor Raja Raja I. Okay, so it was built by great Chola Emperor Raja Raja one. Okay, so I'm simultaneously highlighting these important points. It is one of the largest temples in India and is an example of Dravidian architecture. Okay, so you should be remembering most of the temples in South India are of Dravidian architecture. Okay, the temple is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site known as the Great Living Chola Temples. Okay, so they are known as Great Living Chola Temples. Okay, and apart from this, other temples are also there, with other two being the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Okay, the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram and Airavadeshwara temple. Okay, at Darasuram. Okay, so these are the temples. We have already located their place in the map. Okay, so this particular temple, the temple is a part of World Heritage Site. Okay, so it is a part of World Heritage Site. So I'm highlighting this thing information also. So they are known as Great Living Chola temples, with other two being the temple at Gangaikonda Cholapuram and the Airavadeshwara temple at Darasuram. Okay, so with this, like we have finished this particular topic, Kumbha Abhishekam ceremony at Brihadeshwara. Why it is important? Because like they have conducted this particular ceremony after 23 years. Okay. Now let us talk about the last topic for the day, which is Guru Ravidas Jayanti. We will learn about him, Guru Ravidas. Okay, just a minute. So okay. So we are going to learn about Guru Ravidas Jayanti. It is important. Recently, the birth anniversary of Sant Ravidas was celebrated across the country. Okay, so Sant Ravidas was the 14th century poet, saint, social reformer, and spiritual figure, and founder of the Bhakti movement in North India. He was the founder of the Bhakti movement in North India. Okay, so that's why the Bhakti movement becomes important for this year's examination, because this year we have also celebrated, Guru Nanak Jayanti. I guess after 550th birth anniversary, or I'm not sure, of Guru Nanak. Okay, so that's why this thing like this Bhakti and Sufi movement becomes very important this year. And so earlier also we have come across various places over here, like Palas, Pratiharas, Gurjaras, like that. So, and mostly Kaveri River is referred time and again this year. Okay, Kaveri River, Godavari River, Krishna River. So rivers of South India, their locations are very important for this year's exam. So you should be, giving a special focus on learning these things. So now let us talk about this thing. His parents belong to the leather working untouchable community. His devotional songs were included in the Sikh sculptures Guru Granth Sahib. Okay, so this is a very important information, that his devotional songs were included in Guru Granth Sahib. Ravidas taught removal of social division of caste and gender, and promoted unity in the pursuit of personal spiritual freedoms. Okay, so this is all about current affairs for today's discussion. So we have learned about Guru Ravidas, and with this, the Bhakti and Sufi movement becomes important for this year's exam. We have seen location of some of the South Indian temples. So UNESCO World Heritage Sites also becomes important this year, and especially Chola dynasty you should be learning. You should be learning about Gurjara Pratihara dynasty. So in future I'll be talking about some more important places. Okay, so here like we have talked about Pompuar. So it is also there in Tamil Nadu. So this like South India becomes very important this year. Then we have learned about Payanur and connection of Mahatma Gandhi with Payanur, and okay, then we have learned about this Gurjara Pratihara. Okay, so this is all from my side. Okay, so thank you so much, and the discussion may get terminated within a minute. If you have any question, you can ask me, or like you can ask me on the group itself. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for joining. Have a
Sir,
good day.
I have a doubt from not this current affair today, but from test series morning
Mhm.
session. Custodial banking. What is the custodial banking? I send in group also this question.